I will never finish marathon. I don't think any of us will. Sure, there are some that have plumbed the depths of Cryovault, filled up their inventories with gold gear, and have all their faction quests checked off in this first month. I am not one of those. Even those gilded grinders, graced with streamer schedules or college schedules or other such less time-burdened lifestyles, will never finish marathon. It is not there to be finished. It is there to be played, an endless loop of fraught repetition. A treadmill that every 3 months will screech to a grinding halt, all records of your running wiped away. Save perhaps for the color of your sneakers and the leaflets filled with lore that you plastered to the console, you will have to clamber back on and start from level 1. There are nights where I hate this treadmill and dread my sessions on it. There are others where I clamber off feeling glutted and satisfied, eager for the next cycle. Running is, after all, the first step to escape. Escape will make me God. Simply because of this lack of an end, I am scared that Marathon might die before I find that escape. I want to leave Marathon when I'm sated, when I've explored enough nooks and crannies to say to myself, I may not have everything, but what I have is enough. The poison of Marathon, that neon green bile that rooted in my system during the server slam and pulled me back for the launch, ready to hurl my shell against the shoals of Tau Ceti again and again and again, it's still inside me, still remixing and rebalancing itself against my defenses, clawing me back to each new run. Marathon dying before I can find an antidote would be its own kind of tragedy. The slow death of loss of interest and the moth-like pull towards the next shiny new thing is its own kind of sadness, but I've never had a game grab me this hard only to then get taken away. So many seem to be rooting for this untimely end, for the servers to go dark. Some days I think I understand them, but their hopes are not mine. My worries are that in spite of my love for the game, for the pulsing neon toxins pumping alien endorphins through me, that things will eventually curdle, that the highs I'm chasing will prove too hard to grasp. I could give you a list of my favorite weapons in the game, but I haven't found or used all of them yet. I could tell you about the best routes through Dire Marsh and all the ways into Pinwheel Base on Outpost, but I don't have them down yet. I could tell you about the ways to fight through Cryo Archive and reach the dreaded Svit compiler in its deepest chambers, but I haven't even come close to making it that far. My worry is that when I reckon with all the time I've poured into Marathon, for all the love I have for it in spite of its myriad flaws, it will still manage to spit me back out, undigested. Bungie has chosen to craft a game for an incredibly hardcore audience. I thought those days were behind me. There's an argument to be made that those days should be behind me. No esports teams are trying to break down my door to sign me up. I've always been able to adapt to the practicalities of an imposing PvE fight. I have the Destiny Day 1 raid clears to prove it. The unpredictability of runner versus runner, though, to see all that Marathon has to offer, you either need to be able to stand toe-to-toe with the elite, find someone to drag you over the finish line, or get incredibly lucky. Perhaps some combination of all three. With only 3 months in a season, there's a good chance that many players will never be able to find that luck before the treadmill hurls them off like a bucking bronco and the journey is reset, an endless, perishing cycle. Will those players that are thrown off stick around to clamber back on? A reset to level an unbalanced field feels right, seems proper. Without a thumb on the scale, the rich will only get richer. I still fear that first slide down the mountain. Gazing back up at the distant peak may be too much for some. I know for myself, if I'm unable to max out all the factions in this first season, where I have the likeliest chance of putting in the most time, the odds of me trying again may drop precipitously. I am not a square peg trying to fit into a round hole. I am neither square nor round. I am a fluid to be decanted into shell after shell after shell. I've put enough time into each of the runner shells that I feel like I have a good sense of them. Their synthetic personalities are lightly sketched in, which intrigues me. If shells have pre-made personalities, what becomes of the consciousness that is poured in? Does it retain its own shape, or does it flow into the contours of the container provided for it? Does it return to its old boundaries on shell death, or are the contours forever altered? What is truly left of those who allowed their minds to be hurtled into this hostile space with no timeline on the ends of their debts? Best not to ask too many questions here. The shining poison demands another run, and another. I will sing an ode to the rook shell. Solo runs in Marathon can be crushing on a bad night, almost intolerable slogs of death after death after death. Rook runs are liberating. To lean into being a scavenger, a fragile, limited thing surrounded by apex predators. To have a whole trio run by you as you cower in the shadows, clutching a meager pistol like a life raft. Sometimes I'm seen, sometimes I'm not. I've yet to encounter it myself, but there are reports emerging of rooks teaming up and turning the tables on those higher up the food chain. This is electrifying news. After all we rooks have to lose is our chains. I have enough time invested that the poison blooms have whispered through my veins and become thorned and fractal. I know how to find good loot. I know where some of the most laden spots are, how to shepherd fragile keys into runs and find the doors they go to. I've played enough that once vital materials are now afterthoughts, nuisances, to be picked up only when you need to fill space to be exchanged for later, better finds. I've made it over halfway through every single faction quest chain. I know their flavors of indifference and mild interest. My favorite is SecGen, whose grotesquely mothering AI feels the most insinuating. Her words are honeyed in just the right way to let you taste the moldering corpses underneath. A strange taste after the blatant self-interest of the other corporate giants looming on the peripheries of this alien biome. There are flaws here, blooms of rot to lance or sear away. Runs sometimes begin with runners directly on top of one another, removing even the illusion of choice to fight or flee. Arachne may grin in glee at the glut of combat data, but more spacing might feel less punishing. Navigating through the menus can become a learned skill, but if I didn't read the myriad NDAs I signed when I decanted my soul to take up a runner shell, why does that energy persist when prepping a run? Solo mode is a lonely, punishing experience, and the only nights where I truly began to despair came from bleak stretches of ambushes, ratting in corners, and death after death after death with not even the feeling of progress. Do runners get to say no to their running? Can they choose to leave the treadmill? Or are their limbs paralyzed and affixed to the machine even as they run? The season pass is the greatest joke of them all. It would be difficult to come up with a more predatory, unrewarding model than what's on display here. This is a monolithic corporation's idea of a handout. No in-game currency. Items that feel like the worst of the detritus scattering this dead planet, all tethered to a grind out of reach, but for those with the most time or money. With corporate titans written with such deft touches in the faction quests, this pass would not be out of place as a reminder of their uncaring hegemony. Remember that the worms that weave the silk of you get boiled alive before they're ever allowed to be moths. I still love this game. I look at the hatred I had in my first few days from the other side of the lens, the glass tainted by the poison that drools from my grinning, broken, bioprinted mouth. I have given up much of my loot fear by embracing the notion that I am only carrying these items for someone else to inevitably discover. I am still terrified by the feeling of losing a backpack laden with treasure. I long for that day where I finish a run on Cryo having successfully exfilled instead of leaving my loot on the frozen deck of the Marathon for other, better teams to ignore. Neither they nor I will ever finish this game. The treadmill will spill onwards until enough people refuse to get back on, or the ones paying to keep the machine running pull the plug. Which will happen first? How long will I be able to keep running? Is the escape they speak of the liberation from the treadmill? Is it only an ancient nightmare? The one who named the escape may be able to become God, but here on Tau Ceti, the gods are small and petty, and they trickle poison in the ears of those who kneel before them. I kneel before them still.
Time flows on. The end of the first season of Marathon is days away. I have continued to gestate deep within the alien biome of this cursed world, ready to emerge as something wicked and profane. There has been progress made. I've gotten closer to the distant goals I mentioned before. I'm tantalizingly close to the last checkbox on the seasonal checklist. Bungie has made some small, meaningful improvements with the promise of more to come. The fractals in my blood spin in whorls of distant sunlight. The vitriol aimed at this game has only intensified since the announced final sunsetting of Destiny 2. I still hope that they will have time to expand the scope and reach of this game. Now, that might be a luxury they never get. The petty gods laugh at my state, eager to pluck me when I ripen. Just days away to nightfall.